This is a weird way to start a video, but we are installing a bathroom kitchen in our walk-in basement. Alright, I probably should have shown you us cutting this concrete. We're installing a kitchen and a bath in our walkout basement. We don't have any plumbing down here. Now, it's easy to get supply water, but it's difficult to get sewer. So, especially if you have to lift. How we're lifting it is by installing this grinder pump. This is made by Liberty. They're kind of a little bit pricey. I ended up, like I said, I went with a grinder. You can go with the sewage pump. The difference is the amount of lift and what you can put down. The grinder pump, you literally can throw branches down and it'll cut it right up. Sewage pump, you got to be a little bit more careful what you're putting down there, but both of them will still do solids. What I mean by solids is everything that goes through the toilet minus, you probably shouldn't be putting feminine products down there, but those will mess with the pumps, but the grinders actually will handle it. All right. So that pump right there, I think with the alarm and the crock, if you hear me refer to this, I'm going to call this a crock or a sump or what have you. But this thing's a sealed unit. And what I mean by sealed is it came all put together. All you have to do is hook your inlet on, and then this is to protect it while you're doing your concrete around it. And then it has a vent area and a discharge, which we'll cover in the future. But the reason why I didn't turn the camera on is concrete dust is it's very fine, and I didn't want the camera around it. Just that was one of the main reasons. And a lot of the concrete cutting, I was here by myself. But either way, so you're going to have a couple different models. This is a 24-inch. They end up going a little bit wider, and you do need to check your local codes. Now, I do want to bring up one thing. I am a licensed contractor, licensed builder, but I'm working on my own house. In almost every state in the union, you can pull your own permits. If there's one thing I can recommend you do, if you are doing this type of work in your basement for purpose of resale, please permit it. I mean, just do it, because that way when it comes time to resale, the permits office shows that you don't have anybody that... I've just heard of some horror stories to where people put a bunch of money into their basement and weren't able to recapture it because they didn't permit any of it. Yeah, I know it's a little bit of a pain. You're dealing with you got a 50-50 shot of whether or not you got a good inspector. So it is what it is. We deal with them in day out. But okay, so I got to tell you, I disagree with the statement I just said right there. 50-50 shot of getting a good inspector. Nah. Out of the entire time that we have been, that I've been in the building line, we've only had 2 problems with inspectors. One, we still have that inspector in another county, but we just deal with it. He always passes our jobs. He's just a pain to deal with. Another was a previous, he's retired now. That contractor, he came in and cussed us out for calling an inspection in on a rain day. And yeah, that didn't go well. I ended up calling his boss and telling him he is no longer allowed on our jobs. And just happened to be his boss ended up finishing the inspections, and he ended up quitting approximately 6 months later after that, so we have no longer to deal with him. But other than that, the inspectors are fantastic. I have virtually no problem with them. The only problem I have with them, only criticism, is the inspectors when you leave a phone number and ask for a call ahead and then show up to the job and then call you and say, I'm here. That's my only criticism. So that's a bit tough to deal with. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. But Yeah, so editing the video, and I want to clear that up. Yeah, most inspectors are pretty decent. All right, so what we did, we actually got a Makita. Let me go get it. Of course, we got the steel concrete cutoff saws, but you can't be using those in confined spaces. You know, carbon monoxide. You know the whole thing. It'll unalive you. So you don't want to be doing that. Here's the Makita. This is what we used here. It's already put away. Look at this simple little hanger I used, made as far as holding this thing up tight against the wall, because that's not out all the time. But this is a 14-inch. Use the same saw as a lot of your gas-powered cutoff saws. This has probably better depth as far as getting in there. Here's a pro tip, man. Get yourself a pair of duck bills, vice grips, clamp it on here. Sorry about that. Now this pair right here, it's not the pair I used, it has a broke off adjustment knob. But what is so good about this is you'll be able to tape your vacuum hose connector when you hook it up to here. So like if it's over here and you, I don't know, it worked really well. You were able to run a little bit of duct tape around there, and it'll hold your vacuum hose to keep it from falling off. Without that thing, it is just chaos. Hold on. Maybe I didn't even have it on here. Oh yeah, I had the vacuum hose that went right there. So that's why. See, it's on the same angle. Perfect. Pro tip there. For this right here, I traced it. The first time I went around here and drilled, I took a rotary hammer, in which I've already taken care of both of them. But I basically drilled an inch away. We went all the way around. I drilled it a little bit too big. I mean, too small. So I ended up having to go around and do that entire thing. So probably, if I would recommend anything, probably oversize it maybe a couple of inches. Because it's concrete work's too difficult doing this. Then I took, hold on, let me come back. Because most plumbers, you're never gonna see this clean.
Right.
It's a butcher job.
They're gonna take a jackhammer straight to it.
Yeah,
they're not gonna.
It's a butcher job.
Which jackhammers, it damages other portions of the concrete. Like it could possibly form a micro crack 3 to 4 feet away from where the actual hole was.
But we do a lot of concrete work because this is what we're remodelers, and we don't go in to destroy people's homes. We go in to make it better. All right, hold on here. Here, I got a 4-inch coring bit. Actually, I think this is a 4 1/4 or 4-inch. But I went ahead and drilled exactly where the toilet was going to be, where the toilet hub was going to be, and you don't necessarily have to do that. I laid out my entire plumbing where it was going to be and bored through there, and then I did my trenches. A lot of plumbers are going to say those trenches are way too small. We'll find out. We'll find out. The rotary hammer. Here's a Bosch. I mean, that's like a staple right there. That one, or Hildy. And I ran, what is that? 5/8?
Yeah, 5/8.
1/2 inch 5/8 is a really good rotary hammer as far as doing those circular. And then hold on there. Then I followed it up with this is actually a grinding cup, but if you come up there and just go down your wall portions where I busted out the concrete for the sump, I was able to just take that down through there. Now I had a vacuum hooked up right here, so that I was able to capture quite a bit of the dust. But the star of the show is over here, and that's having an air scrubber. That definitely helps. We got a couple of those. I know a lot of homeowners are not gonna own their own.
Oh, but you could see
air
if the place
scrubber,
rents it.
but you could rent it.
Yep.
And you don't have to come on inside. You put your plastic barriers up. Now this is a magnet door right there. totally recommend the magnet doors over the Velcro, the zipper. They're pain in the hind end. But the biggest benefit of this is saving your house. You're like, well, I'm just gonna shut the door or whatever. No, the dust is brutal. Concrete dust seeps and creeps everywhere. So you got to do what are these things called? Barrier walls.
Zip walls, yeah.
Yeah, you got to do that. So, but you don't have to have these poles. You could come rig
2x4s
up something
or something,
as far as your
1x.
plastic. All right, so concerning the plastic, we used to use 6 mil. Now Harley put this up. If you're looking at this door, he actually put a zipper up. It's one of our last zippers, and it actually failed. Concrete dust will actually get into these zippers and ruin them. And then so he ended up taping one of the newer magnet doors over top of that. So that's why it looks the way it does. But if you're wondering what plastic to use, what do we use? 3?
Yeah.
Is that what we typically like?
I think
now?
it was 3.
Yeah, we don't. If you go less than that, less than 3,
It whips.
It whips,
Yeah.
and it has it's very. You walk by, and if you have static, it's always trying to cling over to you. It's a mess. So 3 is about the best. All right. One thing Harley really did that I liked here. Turn that light on. That worked really well is there's a spade bit. It's a small chisel bit
I can go grab it.
that he put on the rotary hammer. Now, if you know anything about rotary hammers, you can turn it to where you're using it literally as a hammer and it's not spinning. So he went in here and cut down through here. And what's so great about that is when he cut down through there, he was able to dig down there and he didn't have a bunch of tear out. You know, the dirt didn't want to tear out. That's how he was able to get such a square cut. Maybe you should go show him that bit right there, because that worked out really well.
Let me go check it out. So this is actually our Bosch cordless here, and I took the spade bit that he was mentioning. So essentially it's a big chisel. One thing that's really cool about this Bosch is it has a mode that you can switch it to where it rotates the head and you can move it by hand like this, any direction you want, and then you just set it back to your hammer mode right there, so that way. And then here's your other mode that you would normally drill with, so you can actually rotate it on that setting in between pretty easily, and then just set it back on the hammer if you're trying to chisel.
Now this had a 4-inch inlet, and this takes a no hub Furco. I'll just call this a no hub. And then I ended up using a 4-inch to 3-inch reducer. So that's going to get me down to my 3-inch, and that's what I'm going to run my main line. There's a couple things I'm going to walk you through. I'm not a plumber. I do pretty decent at it, but you know, we hire plumbers for our own business. But since this is in our own house, I'm able to pull my own plumbing permit. But plus, I'm able to actually text my own plumber and say, hey, what do you think about this? So I did come up with this own configuration. This is not our plumber's configuration. He doesn't even know what we're doing, but a few things have bounced off him. And so if you're a plumber and you see this, you're not going to harm me by saying I did something wrong. You won't, because I don't care. Either way, considering the crock or the sump, this has a 24-inch depth, and you do need to check your own. Just happens to be my building book for my building license actually has all the plumbing in there, so I'm actually able to look at all the plumbing codes per my state. couple things that they do say here in our state of North Carolina is they do have some stipulations as to how deep that this can be and how low it can be. So they don't want this thing sticking out. I don't remember what it is because I'm virtually mounting this flush, so it doesn't pertain to me. But it can't be like sticking 3 or 4 inches out, and it cannot be recessed below. So basically you can't put this underneath the concrete. Now I was trying to think what reasoning why a person would sink it. I understand why they would sink it really deep. I don't know why they would have it out quite a ways. I don't know. Now I did mount this, and we're mounting it because we put sand. There's about an inch of sand down there that I've leveled it with, and this has to be lined with sand. Not only does it need to be setting on sand, the sand needs to be around it. You can't have sharp stones or what have you, sharp aggregate up against that tank. You can potentially pierce it or rupture it. Now I ended up mounting this. This is going to be setting about a 1/2 inch higher than what this is. And the reason being is when we run our tile, it should put our tile almost right to the top of that. I probably could even go a little bit higher than that because this actually could be setting even a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
So this thing actually could be setting an inch out.
So they're saying they didn't want a certain height above the top of the slab. There is a lot of people that find it more
It could be a trip hazard.
inexpensive to do all this compared to doing this. They build a 2x6 raised platform floor on top of the entire slab, and then they just run their plumbing
That could be
right
it.
on top of the concrete. So that might be why they're trying to mount that thing, 6-7 inches higher than the slab.
You might be right, because they may say, well, we only want to just bore this hole, just this hole, and then do all of our plumbing on top of the concrete.
Right, exactly.
And whereas that thing would be out of the ground quite a ways.
Exactly.
But the way that this crock is, the way it's shaped and everything, it has these ears and different stuff. A lot of people are not aware of how much pressure hydraulic, when water gets into dirt, that it will try to force this out.
Yeah.
So they actually have these cavities and everything to where when you put it in there, lock it down with sand, dirt, and your concrete around the top.
It's kind of like gas
locks
station
it in.
tanks. They do huge footings below the tanks and bolt them down.
You have to, because there's a lot of my dad was a builder, and he told many times of him setting different tanks, and then it rained overnight, and when he got there the next morning, it wasn't even that hard of rain, but he got there the next morning, he says the tank popped out of the ground.
Yeah.
I've heard that from a bunch of people. So and I've heard that from, I've actually witnessed it with Crocs.
Exactly. I've seen it too.
But it's good to be oversized some for this right here.
What do you mean?
Oh, for hands. I like it. Let's mount a toilet and call it good. Okay, cool.
Just right there.
Just right there. Now, one thing we do need to figure in is over your entire run, are you going to have enough depth, for your pipe? So that definitely is a consideration to what you mount it at.
Looks like a good.
We're going to be coming right to that rib.
Yeah.
So
Looks like it's about an inch high, and then right now it's about an inch higher than the concrete, and then you have a 1/2 inch tile and thin set included, so you'll be about a 1/2 inch high.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
It would be very nice looking.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. So